Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors coming to you with a rebound relationship series titled Understanding Relationship Failure 10 Reasons. This is going to be a collective lecture, and it is divided into multiple videos. So, you will need to listen to the first part, the second, the third, and so on. So, understanding relationship failure is important because if you don't take the time to self assess what went wrong with the relationship, you are doomed to repeat the same types of mistakes. Understanding relationship failure also points to the fact that most relationships fail oftentimes with our contribution, but it could also be that you just really chose the wrong person, or the person was just not ready to be in relationship, or the person could have chosen you as maybe a fallback plan until they were able to marry someone else. So I want you to take some time to listen to the full series. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will respond. Also, take some time to hit the subscription button and then hit the notification bell if you are interested in further videos. Thank you for visiting the channel. So this lecture is subject to fair use. So I will be commenting, criticizing, teaching, and pursuing scholarship using this lecture. Reason number 5, didn't want to work together, a preference for selfishness. When people no longer want to work with you in any capacity, let alone within a romantic relationship, it is typically because they believe you are replaceable. They believe that they have options and you are no longer among any of those options. You are essentially substitutable. You can be thrown away like an old sock and replaced with a newer one. Their desire to work with you either dissipated or just stopped altogether. This could be due to a number of variables where you might have contributed and where they have contributed. Regardless, they no longer want to work with you. You know, it's very interesting how we choose people. We do not take inventory or take stock of people and their behavior and their character. We meet someone in a bar, we meet someone on the job, and we just basically assume that they are good people. But there are people who will come into your life who will have no objective other than to stay and get whatever they want and leave. You have two types of people who might not want to work with you anymore in terms of a preference for selfishness. You have people who are just users, and they might have feigned having a relationship with you. They moved in, you got together, you did the sexting, and then all of a sudden, when you go down, maybe financially, economically, right, you lose your job or something like that, you become easily replaceable, meaning that they can find another person that they can move in with and then pursue a relationship with them. It will be for a time, and then and they just keep the cycle going. Then there is a situation where your partner has been trying to work with you. You have been trying to work with your partner, and you both have been trying to work the relationship. And there, maybe you were the person that kept resisting, reuniting, reconciling, resisting change, and then the partner threatened to leave. And then you didn't get a clue for a long time until you truly realized that the partner was actually going to leave, and that person actually left. And in some ways, the partner who goes on ahead and leaves because you didn't want to work together is maybe putting his self-interest or her self-interest as a priority for sanity reasons. For sanity reasons, for soulish reasons, because to stay with you too long might affect whatever they're trying to do in their personal lives, professional lives, academic lives. So being replaceable, it is very subjective. You can be the type of person who has to change mates every 1 or 2 years or every few months, right? You might be the type of person who tried to work with the person, with your ex-partner, and that person did not want to work with you. And so you decided to go on ahead and leave. And replaceability in that case might be you just wanted to replace the fact that you needed time away, that the time you spent with that person is replaceable in terms of the time that you need to spend with yourself. For the romantic relationship, deciding whether to continue working with you or not is dependent upon the initial goal for the relationship. To understand why they prefer to be selfish is to understand their own logic. Consider the role of grit and self-control in terms of the following. Grit is usually for long-term considerations. So you usually set a grit goal if there's a larger vision, and you set a self-control goal when it's a objective to control momentary impulses. But let's not gloss over the fact that everything is based upon that initial goal you set for the relationship. So if you just broke up with someone and you're not quite sure that it is broken up, but you need comfort, and you decided to go to a bar, well, it's sort of understood that whoever you pick, even as a one-night stand, is going to be a rebound. And so you might not have set the goal verbally, I'm looking for a rebound, but it's just automatically understood that if you just got out of a relationship and you don't wait and you seek another relationship quickly, then that person is likely a rebound. You can set other types of initial goals. I'm just going to date. So I'm going to date for a few months, and then I will assess any one of the people that I have dated if they will be interested in a relationship. And then, of course, if you have proposed to someone, well, we know what the initial goal for the relationship is, to eventually marry. When reflecting on your past romantic relationships, what was the initial goal? Was the goal to pursue the relationship with long-term consideration? Did you or your partner have grit in mind? Did you or your partner plan to stay with you? Where either one of you marriage-minded or felt long-term cohabitation was suitable for the relationship? And that's why you need consensus on that initial goal, because what happens is people will set a goal to live together, and they don't add sort of like a time frame. We're just going to move in together. But one of the partners will change that initial goal and create a counter argument. And we talked about that in previous audios. They change that initial goal and they create a counter argument, and they basically said, no, I don't want to live together anymore. I want to get married. Well, the other partner, they were fine with long-term cohabitation. So that initial goal really does matter, because it's usually in an engagement situation, because we know that the two partners are going to get married. They are both under the same understanding that I proposed for us to get married. So when they enter a cohabitation situation, live together before the wedding, then it makes sense for them to say we had the same goal in mind. What happens is, though, in some situations there's conflict between the two, and one decides to say, let's just wait. And I said in previous audios that when they say let's just wait, that's already a counter argument. They are already counter arguing that initial goal. So you have to determine if long-term cohabitation is the thing for you, if marriage is the goal for you, or if short-term mating strategies are the goals for you. Was the goal to pursue the relationship with short-term considerations? Did you or your partner believe that the relationship wouldn't last more than a few months? Did you or your partner ever discuss the relationship, its potential for long-term capacity? Was it difficult for you or your partner to control momentary impulses or temptations to pursue another romantic relationship? Well, it's already understood that dating really requires self-control, not grit. Grit is passion, perseverance for long-term goals. So I discussed this also in previous audios, that if you are wanting to get a college degree, get the bachelor's, get the master's, then the PhD, that's going to require grit. You're going to need self-control to continue registering and enrolling in classwork and coursework and finishing that coursework. And that's going to take you having to accomplish that for a minimum of 120 credit units. I don't know what that what it looks like in terms of total number of classes, but you need self-control to manage yourself to not drop out of school or to not drop a class every semester. However, the long-term goal of getting your degree for your particular field and industry is going to require grit. So when you're thinking about these types of goals that you are setting for romantic relationships, it's understood that if you are dating or you are having multiple one-night stands, that is sort of like a short-term consideration. I have also noticed that people are collecting dating rotations where they are dating people for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they still consider themselves single, and they have no intention of converting those relationships into long-term, even though there have been years attached to the current relationship. So you have to then think to yourself, am I part of a dating rotation as a reason why this person is not converting me? So when you're thinking about these short-term considerations, is you don't turn a short-term consideration like rebounding or dating into a long-term consideration. Many people do not think about setting goals for the romantic relationship. Before they can consider any goals, they perform what being in a relationship means, and then realize sometime later that the relationship might not be advantageous. Instead of developing the relationship, they get out of it. Well, you need to get out of something if it's not going to produce based upon the goal you set. That's why you need to set the goal. You just don't get into a relationship with someone hoping that they will convert you. And you also need to listen to that person when that person says they are never going to get married. What women do, we often try to change their minds. So we'll do whatever we have to do to ensure that they see us and that they see that we are serious. But I've also heard some men say when the right woman comes along, they might consider marriage. So if they are not marrying you, it doesn't matter what you try to do to try to convert the relationship, if they have not sought out to propose and engage and begin developing long-term plans for you and for you together, then you can rest assured that you are not the person that they want to marry. So no amount of you trying to become irreplaceable is going to solve that problem. This creates confusion, hurt, pain, and it stops the process. Determining what the process is depends upon the initial goal. An initial counterargument to feeling replaceable might be to pursue the goal to become irreplaceable. As soon as we feel that we are losing ground, we begin to pull at the relationship and try to renegotiate. We might employ more sex or emotion to make our cases. Of course, we also know that the romantic marketplace is competitive. So you hear men today that there's a high supply of women. So they're not really marrying today. When there was a low supply of women, or the fathers were in the home to ensure that their daughters actually got married, then they married. But everyone today is sort of giving it up in a sense. It used to be hard to get sex. You used to sort of play around with each other for long term. It used to be just that one girl in the neighborhood who we call fast, and that person might give up sex. And even then, she didn't give up sex to everybody. But now everybody knows about sex. It's not like a taboo anymore, and everyone is having sex. So if you try to become irreplaceable, it's almost a waste of time, because what you won't do, that partner will find another person to do. So you have to check the goal to become irreplaceable. Now, if you are in a marriage, I've never been married. I have been in one long-term relationship, live-in cohabitation, shacking relationship. And with those types of relationships, and then plus marriage, it's not easy to get out. It's not as easy. Even when I found out that my partner was repeatedly cheating, it was hard to sort of let go of the situation. I knew that I needed to let it go. I knew it in my mind and in my heart, in my body, everywhere. In my finances. However, it was just hard to let it go. But there came a time when I was fed up. But way before that, the way I became irreplaceable, or tried to pursue becoming irreplaceable, is maybe cooking more, maybe sex, kind of buying him things. Just appealing to him to show him that I'm the one that really cares about him, that his ex really doesn't want him. And she said it multiple times, and he just couldn't let go of the ex. But it was a waste of time becoming irreplaceable, because once they figure out that they want to leave, and especially with a man, once he makes a decision to leave, he's already gone. A woman has a process. She might set a goal to leave, but it might take almost 2 years for her to actually exit the relationship. She's exited the relationship emotionally, mentally, and also in terms of her heart, but she hasn't quite physically exited the relationship. When I knew that he was not going to change, I began the process of exit, but it took about 2 years for me to physically exit the relationship. So becoming irreplaceable as a goal is you have to check to see if it's worth it. If it's worth it in a marriage, and you feel like the person is going to stick and stay, then that might be different. But in a long-term cohabitation or short-term situation, I don't think it's actually going to work, because the romantic marketplace is competitive. It is in becoming irreplaceable how comparisons to the partner's alternatives differentially affect low and high self-esteem people, where these authors argue these points. Because desirable alternatives are opportunities, the researchers suggest to partners to find someone special who will love them because they are irreplaceable. Being irreplaceable helps to foster a satisfying, stable relationship, and it affords trust. Trust in a partner's continued motivation to be responsive provides this sense of psychological assurance. It resolves any conflict with avoidance and anxiety. However, being irreplaceable, it depends on the type of partner. It depends on the partner who, what type of value the partner, projects on that person. So here it is, as a woman, you want to become irreplaceable. But if the man doesn't see you as a high value mate, or if he perceives the person that he wants to be with or wants to leave you for as a high value mate, then there is no trust in the relationship. There's no, you becoming irreplaceable will not foster a satisfying, stable relationship. Even if in some ways it might resolve conflict with avoidance and anxiety, you have to remember, if he has already made up his mind to leave, he's going to leave. As the authors suggest, in ongoing dating and marital relationships, people generally only feel satisfied and committed themselves when they trust that their partner's love and commitment, and thus responsiveness, is secure. It is then possible to operate from a secure base. So we talked about, attachments, and we talked about secure base, and how the baby feels secure to, fully explore its environment, and then will happily return to its mother as a secure base, or if his mother leaves the room, when the mother returns, will happily reunite. Okay, not demonstrate ambivalence to the mother. So people tend to feel satisfied, committed, when they trust their partner's love and commitment. Well, the very fact that the person is, deciding to replace you tells you enough, to suggest that you can't trust that partner's love and commitment, because then it's conditional. It's conditional if that if you try to become irreplaceable, and it might work with the partner, it might only work with the partner for a short term, meaning that the person that the partner wants to be with is not available, or is not coming around, or is, stalling and procrastinating. However, when that person decides to come back around, you'll be hard pressed to trust your partner love and commitment and responsiveness, right? Because that responsiveness is also conditional based upon if the, say, high value potential alternative receives their love or not receive their love. Have you noticed that if your man has been cheating, he comes home and one day he just makes love to you like there's no other, or your woman has been cheating, and all of a sudden, she comes home and she makes love to you like no other. If you remember that Tyler Perry movie, Why Did We Get Married 2, and Tyler Perry's character, his wife, was emotionally cheating. She wasn't sexually cheating, but she was emotionally cheating. And one night she comes home and she makes passionate love to him like he has never, ever experienced. It might be because a lot of times they don't want to cheat on the current partner, but they need to express those feelings. And that's a hard thing, because you think that your partner is responding to you, but they are actually responding to the person that they will use to replace you. And so in many cases, even though Tyler Perry's character wife does not physically leave him, she emotionally left him. She emotionally replaced him. So that's kind of interesting. I hope you watch that movie again. Becoming irreplaceable has the added benefit of the belief that a partner is less likely to reject and or exit the relationship. However, becoming irreplaceable is also fraught with insecurity because of potential romantic alternatives. To stop a romantic partner's eyes and feet from wandering, people need to ensure that their partner values qualities in them that he or she could not readily find in others if he or she were to look for them. That, if you have I notice that men like to think in terms of similarities and differences. You will often hear men say about the new woman in their life when people ask them, well, why are you dating her? And he will respond, because she is not like all the others. She's different. And so if you are sort of similar to someone else, some other potential alternative, it is less likely that he will leave. It is less likely that she will leave. However, if there is a difference, a real difference between you and the potential alternative, there is a greater likelihood that he will leave or she will leave, because they feel like they are moving up. And people like to advance. If you're replacing somebody, you are basically suggesting that the person you are with is not advancing. They are not moving forward. They're sort of stagnant. They look exactly the same way you married him, or you married them, whether from dating to long-term cohabitation to marriage. And people like to progress it, and especially if they are moving forward in their lives, people often assume that just because they got a raise and they're making more money, they need to leave the current partner to find another partner who's doing exactly the same thing. They got a raise and they're making more money too. So that that insecurity in the partner who wants to leave has a lot to do also with why they want to leave. I don't know what the insecurity is. It's subjective, but you wanting to become irreplaceable will actually reveal your insecurity as well. This means that a partner would have to maintain those initial qualities perceived at the beginning of the relationship throughout the rest of the relationship. This may be difficult if those qualities fade over time. Specialness or special qualities should trump common attributes. So common attributes are, beauty. She's beautiful, or youthfulness. When I think about specialness, I'm thinking about loyalty, character, integrity, personality. I know people don't like to date people with a good personality, right? Because they immediately equate the person as not being as beautiful as certain types of women that we often call dime pieces, bad bitches or something like that, right? She doesn't have the shape. She doesn't have the butt or the breast, right? We call that person common, when actuality beauty really is a common attribute versus individual character based, moral based beauty in its own right, specialness or special qualities. If you get a dime piece and she doesn't work, you will always have to take care of her. It's funny how people will leave one relationship where they are working together with their mate, leave that relationship and go to another relationship where the person doesn't work, wants you to buy everything for her or him, has no aim other than to marry a rich person, right? We'll leave the person with special qualities, who is a worker, has a work ethic, has a dream, is planning for a dream for another person who is not vision minded or dream minded. One is substitutable when common attributes are shared between the current partner and the alternative. Commonness will make it difficult for the partner to respond, continue commitment, foster trust, and feel less likely to preempt pursuit of an alternative. For someone already in a relationship, the life a person could have with a possible alternative partner might look a lot better and therefore contribute to affection's wavering. Commitment thus is constrained. So this lets you know then that the partner did not set commitment as an initial goal. Like I said, we get into these relationships and we just hope everything works out. But commitment is a goal that you should set, especially if you're going to get into a long-term cohabitation situation or a marriage. You're not going to commit to a short-term partner. We already understand that. But if you're going to move in and merge your lives together and have kids, pay bills, have joint bank accounts and things like that, why isn't commitment an initial goal for that relationship? So that means that the only goal you set was to come together with somebody, live together with somebody, have sex with somebody, eat food with somebody, but not actually be committed. So it's like the person who has their one foot outside of the circle and 1 foot inside of the circle. People may become less committed based upon their perception of mate value. The one person who pursues becoming irreplaceable and the one person who is not already replaceable, they are instead a high value mate. In other words, the woman who is in a relationship with a high value man and who wants to continue that relationship might be the one who pursues becoming irreplaceable. Similarly, when it is a man who chooses irreplaceability, he might be a lower value mate pursuing a higher value woman. So let's take the second one. So in other words, the woman who is in a relationship with a high value man and who wants to continue that relationship might be the one who pursues becoming irreplaceable. So you know that there are certain women who will always have to jump over hoops. If you are able to land a baller, footballer, basketballer, soccer baller, celebrity baller, I don't know who it is. Okay, if you are able to land him or land her, you have to jump over hoops. It's like the person who always has to be on. They cannot take a day off. They are always having to be on. They can't rest. They can't let their hair look crazy. They can't let their body look crazy. They can't stay fat for long if they got pregnant or something like that. They always have to be on. It's like you always are under the microscope, under the cameras, people taking pictures, and just one little thing wrong with you. If you have a pimple or something, one thing little wrong with you, and they'll say, she shouldn't be with him. Who is she to be with him? I can't believe he chose her, right? But if it's a man who chooses irreplaceability, he might be a lower value mate pursuing a high value woman. So if he is a lower value mate, and he will only consider mate value when it comes to a woman that he might be interested in, and she might be a higher value woman. So then he will automatically assess himself where he is in his life and where he wants to go. And then by extension, he will assess the woman he's already with. And if there is the potential of getting with a high value woman, by default, he will consider that his wife is a low value woman. And so he would never really consider himself as low value. He would consider his wife as low value. And then he would think to himself, then I need to really be with a high value woman. So he will then replace his wife with a high value woman, exit that relationship, and go leave the house and pursue that high value woman. In such situations, partners are more likely to be poached by alternatives because one's rivals interpret such mismatches as an open invitation. Attractive partners tend to be targets for advances and flirtations. By contrast, less attractive partners are forced to track their partner's movements and also track how they stack up to a potential alternative for their partner. Less attractive partners and partners who feel inferior to their partner take stock of their own qualities, whether they are still unique or need improvement. So here it is, this low value man leaves his low value wife to pursue a high value woman. But the problem with that, he thinks he has accomplished something. He thinks he has been productive, but he's only opened the door for mate poaching, meaning that a high value man will look at that high value woman with that low value man and say, what is she doing with him? And then it is more likely that he will make his he would go and appeal to that high value woman, basically suggesting that you don't need to be with him. I'm a high value man, so you come on with me. See, it never works out that you leave one mate for another in a long-term cohabitation situation or in a marital partnership. You know, I remember something about Johnny Depp. He was with someone for 18 years, I think. Long-term cohabitation situation, no marriage. And then Amber Heard comes along and sort of pulls him out of that relationship, or he allows her to pull him out of that relationship. They get married. And it's funny, he didn't marry the 18-year relationship woman. He married this other woman, this young girl, fleeting. Well, they stay married for, a short time or so. And then he has actually had more trouble with that new partner than with the old. You never heard of him having any issues with the woman that he had a relationship with for 18 years. This new partner claims that he hit her and that domestic violence, and they had to go to court and all this kind of craziness or whatever. And then there was a divorce settlement, and then he ends up having to give her some money, and then she gives the money that he gives her to charity. So in some cases, she might have just wanted to be with, Johnny Depp. In many cases, he wanted to be with maybe a younger woman, usually for sexual variety, right? But it didn't turn out the way that he thought it was going to turn out. It was just really a waste. So if the partner that he was with for 18 years, tried to become irreplaceable, he had already made up his mind that he was going to leave her and marry some new young chick, who was kind of a little bit hot in the film, in the movies for a bit. She's not anymore. But he's going to leave her and then go to some little new chick, hot chick or whatever, and it didn't work out. If anything, it sort of brought down his reputation. This threatens the person's unique value, or what he or she believes to be a unique value. The worst thing for a partner who believes he or she may be replaceable is to discover that their qualities are replicable. So that means it goes back into that similarities column, the way men think about their pursuit of partners, and then their pursuit of partners who they will convert to long term. If you are no different than anybody else, okay, then I'll just date, people like you. But there has to be a difference for me to consider marrying you. And that's what they like to think. Pay attention to men. Pay attention to how they think and how they say this. In terms of referring to a woman, it is always this language: she is different from the rest. I can't think about what women would say because I really haven't found my difference yet. The guy that I exited the relationship with, he was an amalgam of different relationships, romantic, friendship, family relationships that I struggled with. So I haven't really come across my difference yet, but I believe I would know it when I see it. This moves them into making themselves more indispensable, and they attempt to carve out a greater niche for themselves in the relationship. In particular, people can make themselves more indispensable by satisfying more of their partner's practical needs, providing instrumental support, and by strengthening their partner's investment in the relationship. Examples would be, limit contact with outside friends. However, in becoming irreplaceable, self-esteem is affected. High self-esteem people can engage in positive relationship behaviors by providing support and forgiving transgressions. The question is, though, if you're going to exercise self-esteem as a goal, how long will you be able to keep that goal up if your partner is still wanting to make you replaceable? So, even high self-esteem has its own season within a romantic relationship. People with low self-esteem do not believe that their partner perceives valuable qualities in them. High self-esteem people, when they believe they might be replaceable, will compensate by proving their instrumental value to their partner. So, it might be, say for instance, it is a situation with a high value woman who is married to a high value man. But we all know that a high value man always has the option of pursuing another high value woman. Men tend to rarely date down. I understand that people might consider dating down maybe like a young person, maybe like a less educated person. No, men value the physical qualities, beauty, the appearance qualities over any true substance. But in this case, with the second bullet point here, if a high value woman is considering becoming irreplaceable with a high value man, what she might do is prove her instrumental value to the partner by suggesting that she does come from a good family. She does come from a name or something like that. And to lose her would be to lose all of the networks and the relationships that are connected to their name. So then the high value man might reconsider, because if he is running a business and some of his clients know her father, and her father could make a case to replace him, if he decided to leave his daughter, then he might decide not to leave the daughter because she has instrumental value. Authors suggest that a high self-esteem person will react to their partner's irritations by increasing their connection to that same partner. So that's a way to increase connection. Sometimes men don't receive emotionally. They don't perceive emotions as an instrumental value. They think rationally. They think logically. You have to put You have to put business in front of their thinking. You have to show them your instrumental value in terms of business relationships. Okay. Low self-esteem people, when they believe they are replaceable, tend to lean towards pessimism and hurt because of their partner's ambiguity. They experience lower relationship satisfaction. They begin to self-protect in response to feelings of devaluation and engage in relationship destruction behavior, which ultimately perpetuates relationship conflict. So, I don't know if a person enters the relationship with low self-esteem, or after the relationship realizing the partner is cheating and not emotionally engaging, that they sort of adopt a low self-esteem status or state. It's hard to tell. Regardless, in the relationship, there shouldn't be the presence of low self-esteem in a sustained state. So, you have to check yourself. Was this the person you should have married? Because you shouldn't be unhappy all day, every day, or the majority of the relationship. So, if the partner is exhibiting ambiguity, that's not the first time the partner has done that. The partner might have exhibited ambiguity during the dating phase, during any other phase, the live-in phase. And so if they are ambiguous, meaning if they're sort of indifferent, they can take you or leave you, then this is something that you probably should have picked up much earlier in the relationship, because if they were going to do that, they were going to do it early. Okay, so then what we do in response to ambiguity or indifference, meaning that we can take you or leave you. If you want to leave, you go right ahead. If you want to stay, you go right ahead. It makes no difference to me, right? That's ambiguity. That's sort of like, indifference. What women will do in some cases is begin to devalue themselves. They will engage in relationship destruction behavior, especially if the man is cheating and you want to get the man back, like you are, on Dynasty somewhere, on some soap opera. You might decide to go and, get your own mate and have sex with him, and then tell your husband that. Other type of relationship destruction behavior could be easily, self-harm, physical harm. You might begin to drink, you might begin to take drugs. And all that is the little kid in us trying to get the big kid to see us, or the little kid in us trying to get the parent to see us. Because oftentimes we have this parent-child relationship with our romantic partners. Whatever you didn't resolve from the wounds of childhood, you're going to see it in your romantic relationships. And how you engage and reconcile and navigate your relationship with your romantic partner is going to be on some sort of childlike. If you are still sort of struggling with certain things, that means you are stuck somewhere. I always say that if you have a person who has to cuss everybody out, tell everybody off, engage in runaway type behavior, then that means you are stuck. I don't know if it's at 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, but you are stuck somewhere. And that has to be resolved, because otherwise you're just going to keep choosing exactly the same type of person who might remind you of a parent or primary caregiver. Lower self-esteem people compensate by creating desirable qualities such as becoming warm, kind, more responsive, intelligent, and less common. They increase their effort to make their partners dependent upon them by taking responsibility for their partner's life tasks and limiting contact with other friends. So it's sort of like the person we often say that we don't want. Oh, she has a good personality, You know, she's warm, she's kind, she's intelligent, she's less common, and more responsive is the thing that we sort of do when we're trying to get somebody's attention. So if you are sort of ambiguous or indifferent towards loving me, we're going to now do all that we can to get you to change your mind. So we're going to now become responsive in other areas. We're still not handling the areas that we need to handle for our own personal lives. Instead, we get off that path. We get off that track and we get on the track and the path and the route of trying to get you to see us. So I will iron your clothes, I will wash your clothes, I will cook you more, I will get up to get anything you want from the kitchen. I do more sex, other types of sex acts, things like that. And limiting contact with other friends might be, why don't we go out on a date sometimes? I know you like to go with your boys. Why don't we go out on a date sometimes, And so that's all in an effort to become irreplaceable. To address feelings of inferiority and thwart rejection, they prove their value in other ways that improve their mate value. For a lower self-esteem woman with a high-value mate, she might increase in wifely duties. For a lower self-esteem man with a high-value mate, he might increase his economic status and finance. In contrast to both high and low self-esteem, people with high self-esteem tend to have an easier time concluding that it would be difficult, if not possible, for their partner to find anyone quite like them, let alone find someone better. So this thing about the the lower self-esteem man with a high-value mate, he will increase his economic status and finances. So that's kind of like putting on a show. It's funny that he was not willing to increase his economic status and finances with the previous partner. So it takes a high-value mate for him to get a clue about the need for him to increase his economic status and finances, because we know that it must be a need now, because in order to keep up with this high-value mate woman, he's going to have to look like her in a sense, right? So then he's going to work more than 40 hours a week. He might take a second job. He might engage in behavior and activities to help him to get money quickly, right? It's not going to work, because if she's already high value, it'll be hard to get to her status just by association. So he would already have to be there. And then the person with the high self-esteem tend to have an easier time concluding that it would be difficult, if not possible, for their partner to find anyone quite like them. So that's sort of like the high-value mate, the high-value man, the high-value woman. They already believe that they are high value. And so you being in their presence tells them that you are low value. But if you want to remain in their presence, you're going to have to do all that you can to reach up to their level. And that's really not going to be the case, because unless you already come to that circle, that particular circle of people who are high value and have high value means, material sources, you will always be replaceable in a sense. However, the issues that high or low self-esteem brings creates an adaptive problem for people with low self-esteem more than people with high self-esteem. Lower self-esteem individuals and their partners reported lower satisfaction and commitment to their relationships than did higher self-esteem individuals and their partners. Again, lower self-esteem is all relative. I don't know if you already into the relationship with low self-esteem, or low self-esteem came as a result of the relationship. Either way, you are exhibiting lower self-esteem for a reason. And that reason has a lot to do with the responsiveness of your mate. And if your mate is not responding to you, and we always use sex as a factor, how the person responds. Is it just a quickie, or is it real, true love making? And if it's not true love making, then we always internalize that it is something wrong with us. Not necessarily wrong with him, it is something wrong with us. And it's like this: if you did not want to make love to me, why even pursue a relationship with me? Keep the quickies on the sex market, on the dating market. But in marriage, there should be the setting of a goal to make love to your wife or make love to your husband. So then that's another one of those goals. Not only commitment, but also relationship satisfaction, and what you are going to do to ensure that your partner is satisfied in the relationship and committed, of course. This suggests that becoming irreplaceable is aspirational, but it may not be productive. The preoccupation with fulfilling a partner's needs and becoming indispensable translates as being less productive in another area. In other contexts, such as academically, professionally, and personally, the goal to become irreplaceable is not long-term enough to be sufficient. It may not be worthy enough to be valuable, especially when people change their emotions with the wind. So that's an aspirational goal. It's not something that you can truly, bank on, because if a person is not happy with you in one area, then you try to solve that area, and then they come back at you again, right? And they're not happy in this area, and then you try to solve that area. It's nonsense. It's something going on with that person, not just with you. And so the more you try to change yourself to fulfill that person's needs, the more that you try to become irreplaceable, it's like grasping at the wind. You can't catch the wind, not with your hands at least. And so it's not productive, because, like I said, you get off one track, a track where you are productive, you get off that and you get on another track to become irreplaceable, and you are not really, productive in that area. So that means you are leaving your academic, your professional, and your personal areas unfulfilled, not completed. If setting the goal is based in a marriage decision and both partners believe that marriage is long-term, then the goal is sufficient, along with a work ethic needed to maintain and sustain commitment to that goal. However, if one of the partners, whether in a marriage or long-term relationship, does not believe in long-term, the capacity of the relationship to move beyond momentary impulses into long-term thinking, then setting a goal to become irreplaceable is a waste of time. The goal is selfish. So not only the person who wants to replace you, not only is that person selfish, but the fact that you want to replace you is also selfish. Because in trying to please that person, you are basically replacing yourself, who you are as a true person. You are putting on a mask, in a sense, right? So in both regards, you both are selfish. The goal of becoming irreplaceable is selfish on both sides. It is selfish because there are greater goals that can be fulfilled. Pursuing the goal of becoming irreplaceable blinds one against pursuing goals of good health and wellness, sound finances, and the hope of finding someone for whom one does not have to pursue such a goal. It is the metaphorical crossroads decision that requires you to base a decision off the need for grit and the need for self-control. The goals you set are determined by the length of commitment you want to make. In returning to the initial discussion, there are self-control based goals, there are grit based goals. So I teach from this source, self-control and grit, related but separable determinants of success. And in this source, and it's about a 4 to 5 page source, and it is available on the web, Duckworth and Gross conclude that self-control and grit are correlated but not perfectly so. This means that that self-control and grit by definitions are not identical, even if for many years we have referred to these terms in the same way. Their target is the type of goal, whether self-control is needed or grit. They reference achievement. So like I said, if you are completing a degree, if your goal is to obtain a degree, or for your industry, you're going to need a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD, then that is a grit goal, okay? But to register for coursework every semester and stay consistent with that, those are self-control goals. Duckworth and Gross define self-control as the capacity to regulate attention, emotion, and behavior in the presence of temptation. The capacity to regulate requires adjudication, which is a legal term referring to the ultimate decision one needs to make in choosing to pursue a valued goal and an alluring goal. So I discussed Duckworth and Gross in a previous audio. And I talk about adjudication being basically a legal process where the judge hears the plaintiff's side, the prosecutor's side, and the defendant's side. And each of those sides make their cases, and they use case law as well. And then the judge will take all of their cases into consideration, their pleadings into consideration, and then he will adjourn for a decision later. He'll go into his office. He will read the case law books, case law, study each side's case. And then he'll come out and adjudicate. He will make a decision about which side is the winner. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but which side will prevail in a sense, right? Well, your life is the same way. Even your everyday self-control life is the same way. Do you choose to eat the marshmallow chocolate cake, which is an alluring goal, or do you choose a healthier option, which is a valued goal? When I am tempted to eat a hamburger or pizza, I will think to myself that it is much better for me to cook a meal, because then if I cook a meal, if I put some chicken in a crock pot, let it cook 4 or 5 hours, and then cook some side dishes with it, I would fare a lot better that way, because it would help with my digestion. However, if I go and eat a diet of hamburgers, and I'm not saying to give up hamburgers or anything like that, I'm just saying some people eat hamburgers every day. When I was in college, I did that. I would eat candy and soda pop and hamburgers and pizzas. I never cooked a meal, and then I got a little sick as a result of that. When you decide to cook, one, you save money. 2, it helps with your system. 3, you are creating a habit of cooking. So that's a valued goal. Do you complete your homework, or do you take more selfies, or stop doing your homework and go on the internet? Sometimes I hate working with a computer that has internet access, because it will be a lot better sometimes if I didn't have it, then I can stay focused. I'm a lot better than I used to be, but I do find myself stopping one thing and then looking on the internet for nothing. You know, it could be Facebook, Instagram, or something like that. Just, you know, something crazy. Duckworth and Gross define grit as the tenacious pursuit of a dominant subordinate goal despite setbacks. A superordinate goal is one in which it requires a time scale of 10, 15, 20 years to complete and requires multiple organizations, agencies, companies, and humanitarian organizations to coordinate different objectives. Grit is typically needed for a superordinate goal. So if you're going to solve the local pothole problem in your area as an objective, you don't need grit for that. You just need self-control, right? To sort of, you know, control your anger impulses or something like that, right? However, if you're going to solve this current Venezuelan crisis, the issues with Russia hacking into our system, the Syrian civil war, the Gaza situation, Israel situation, or any sort of world crisis type situation, those are superordinate goals. Those types of goals will take 10, 15, 20 years to complete, and it might take our lifetime. So in some ways, marriage might be considered a superordinate goal because people are staying married 25, 30, 40, 50 years, and they set a goal to stay married, or at least to get married and stay together and work through issues, things like that, right? Self-control is required to manage the momentary impulse to stop and watch TV, but it is not to stop and watch TV or stop watching TV is not considered a grit goal. Distinguishing between grit and self-control requires the use of a hierarchical goal framework. Both grit and self-control are determinants of success, but one is needed to support the other. Goals are hierarchically organized into lower order and higher order. Lower order goals are more numerous, context specific, short term, substitutable, whereas higher order goals are typically fewer in number, more abstract, more enduring, and more important to the individual. If we were thinking about romantic relationships, examples of lower order goals would be, say, dating rotations or dating, entering the sex market. The higher order goals would be fewer in number, principally one, right, and would be connected, say, to marriage. So here's the visual hierarchical goal framework, and I'll talk about this in a previous audio. Think about those actions, right? You have multiple actions, then you have lower order goals, then you have the higher order goal, then that one goal at the top is the superordinate goal. So if you were thinking about, say, academic, right? And the goal was to get just a bachelor's degree for right now as the larger goal, and you're going to need grit. All of the actions and lower order goals and these higher order goals would require you to sustain self-control. But the vision of you obtaining an academic degree would be the superordinate goal. So then with the actions here, you would need to sustain registering and enrolling in coursework, pay all fees, anything, talk to the advisor, anything like that. And then those lower order goals would be, say, your general education coursework that you have to complete, like your electives, your pre-major type coursework, right? Then that higher order goals would be your upper division coursework in the major. Maybe some electives still, but that's sort of like your upper division. Now you are basically on your way to completing that goal and earning an academic degree. Okay? If you were thinking about professional, the actions, if you wanted to pursue the career, the field, well, the actions right there could be a number of things. They could be applying for jobs. They could be entry level. It all depends on the initial goal. If you want to become vice president or president of a company, then that would be the superordinate goal. So that means that all of the actions here would be, say, your entry level, training, your degree requirements, all those little actions there. Then these lower order goals might be middle management, beginning with supervisor, manager, maybe director, right? And then upper management might be vice president, and then after that, you would become president, right? So it's a hierarchical goal framework, and it is useful for you sort of thinking about how to manage your life. If you're thinking about in terms of personally, your romantic relationship, the actions could be dating or, proposing to someone, right? And then you kind of live together. The lower order goals, usually I hear people say to get over those first 2 years of marriage. Those first 2 years can take you out quicker. And then you might set another goal to get past 5. And then the higher order goals could be 5 to 10. And so you work through your problems, you handle conflict, you reunite, you increase sexual access. And then the larger goal would be to death do you part, that you completed marriage in a sense, right? You set a goal in the actions area where you're going to get married. I'm proposing to you to get married. And it's sort of like an understanding that, okay, we're going to stay married, right? We're not the types of people who are going to not be married, So then the way you complete marriage is based upon that marital script. To death do us part. So if one of you dies, you completed the marriage. In the strangest way of saying that, I never thought about it like that, but it is true, because it is, based upon that initial goal, that marital script. So then you look at the same hierarchical goal framework and say, for instance, our superordinate goal is to become irreplaceable, right? We've been talking about that. So let's look at the actions first. So we're going to improve our mate value by changing appearance, doing things more for the partner, about 1 to 2 years. And I've already said that in those first 2 years, those are the hardest. The lower order goal might be to manage opposition, monitor partner's agreement, commitment, continue to improve mate value, and that could be from 2 to 4 years. Okay. The higher order goal then would be to focus on the relationship at 5 years, manage competition and access to partner, establish a vision 5+ years to death. And then the superordinate goal would be to become irreplaceable. And as long as they haven't replaced you, after you have done all of this for 1 to 5 years, okay, you are good with your goal. But you still have that 5 years plus that you have to sort of sustain this type of goal. And so you have to think to yourself, is it truly worth it? Because opposition, you will always have opposition. If you are trying to keep from being common, you will always have to keep that up. So if he's talking about things like, I don't like you having the rollers in your head, or you're gaining weight, or something like that, you're going to have to keep that up. You can't get fat. You cannot gain weight. You have to keep your own hair. You have to keep a job that is probably at a minimum of $50,000 a year. Is it worth it to you? What happens if you lose your job? Is he going to leave? Those are some things that you need to consider before becoming irreplaceable. If the desire for the relationship is to get beyond those normal humps and struggles, then the superordinate goal cannot change. This means that when struggles rear their heads and the romantic partner chooses a family member's side or cheats with another person, if the goal is to maintain that relationship until death, then the superordinate goal of becoming irreplaceable cannot change. People who tend to establish a superordinate goal often change or abandon it when their efforts are blocked. Grit requires maintaining allegiance to that goal. Self-control requires managing and choosing between conflicting actions. For example, an example of a person who chooses multiple superordinate goals is one who chooses law school one month and medical school the next. It is at the higher order goals where time is spent in the major. All lower order goals reflect general education and electives. To change the goal at the higher order would be a setback. Therefore, the alternative to grit would be to give up on a superordinate goal because the means to the end are blocked and there is no inclination to achieve the goal with a different strategy. The alternative to self-control is to indulge in a goal that brings immediate gratification but is soon regretted. So these people who decide to leave one partner for another, they have self-control issues. Relationships are fraught with conflict and issues and struggles and hindrances and distractions and good times and bad times, right? You shouldn't be the type of person who has to leave every time there's a situation, right? So people will abandon the larger goal of marriage and commitment and sticking it out for one of these short-term goals because some person looked at them, turned their head, gave them a rise, in a sense, right? Self-control is coupled with everyday success, while grit is coupled with exceptional achievement, accomplishing that superordinate goals such as becoming a doctor, finishing law school, or becoming CEO of a company. The larger goal to become irreplaceable in order to maintain the relationship will require guarding against abandonment from the partner. Guarding is required at the action, lower order, and higher order levels. You will know that you have achieved your superordinate goal when your partner dies. If you feel that the relationship you are in is not sustainable long term, meaning that maintaining the goal is not feasible on your behalf and not desirable on your partner's behalf, then you might need to change your goal and become replaceable. If you allow yourself to be replaced, you allow yourself an opportunity to hope, reach, and obtain better. The best intervention for you right now might be to improve your skills at self-control. According to these three authors, self-control is a skill, a capacity that can be improved with training and practice. This will give you time to assess a feasible, desirable, attainable, superordinate goal for a new, productive, thriving relationship. Becoming replaceable, meaning that you recognize your own worth and the fact that you know you deserve better, might be a factor in why your partner chose someone else. It's definitely for the better. So so you realize through all that stuff of trying to become irreplaceable that it might serve you better to become replaceable, because to stay in a relationship that is not working, where the partner is ambivalent, indifferent, and the relationship is ambiguous will affect your self-esteem. It will affect your psychology. It will affect your finances, and it just all around affect your mind and your heart. So in some ways, a better counter argument would be to become replaceable. Let that person exit your life, you exit that person's life, and you move towards a better status for yourself. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.